Coming up, we'll update you on the situation in Syria. Your JU football team is now 1-2, and residential life adds new faculty members.
Coming up in sports, we'll talk about how Dolphins volleyball moved their record to 9-0.
Welcome back to this edition of the Dolphin Channel News. I'm Adriana Rodriguez. The United States and Russia have come to an agreement about Syria's chemical weapons. Reporter Ethan Wellhausen dug into the details for what this means for Syria.
The video that caused an uproar for many Americans shows the carnage of the Syrian civil war. Over the weekend, Secretary of State John Kerry and Russia's foreign minister met and discussed plans to destroy all Syrian chemical weapons. Syria now has 1 week to list all of its chemical weapons stockpiles. If Syria does not comply, the UN will intervene. Professor of Geography Dr. Jeff Martin believes the American people have made up their minds about what should happen in Syria.
They accept the fact that chemical weapons were used, and I think they accept the fact that it was likely the Assad administration that did it. What they reject is the potential of getting involved there.
Dr. Nathan Russo teaches sociology at JU. He says the uncertainty in Syria causes problems, and the Middle East needs to be examined outside the realm of oil.
We need to think of the Middle East independently from the issue of oil and create a policy, a foreign policy with regards to the Middle East.
Russia still remains opposed to military action in Syria. Reporting for the Dolphin Channel News, Ethan Wellhausen, your school, your news.
A Syrian minister outside of President Assad's inner circle thanks the Russians for orchestrating a chemical weapons deal to avert U.S. military action. Heading to local campus news, a new freshman catalog brings major changes to your experimental learning requirements. JU's new Quality Enhancement Plan, ECHO, is a 3-credit graduation requirement in experimental learning. Beginning this fall, incoming traditional students will be required to complete 1 experimental learning option in order to graduate. Options include undergraduate research, study abroad, internships, and service learning. Experimental Learning Director Laura Chambers is convinced that ECHO will better equip students for life after graduation.
I think having experiential learning opportunities are important for our students because it helps enhance their abilities in the areas of critical thinking, diversity skills, communication, and teamwork.
Experimental learning will provide students with a first-hand opportunity to learn through experience and enhance their education. A long-time dream for one JU professor has finally come to fruition. The MSRI has extended its classrooms out into the river with the addition of the anticipated dock now floating atop the St. John's. The dock reaches nearly 100 feet, parallel with the shoreline, and is designed to remain stable with flexible pylons. With nearly a decade of research and design, Dr. White is ready to move the marine science program further yet again.
These are simply new facilities to help move our program forward. Like the Marine Science Institute and the building and everything, it's been a long time dream. This is started designing this thing literally about 9 years ago, and so it's really sort of fun to finally get it to fruition.
With fundraising events and community support, Dr. Wright was able to raise over $200,000 through complete donations. In addition to the MSRI using the facility, the sailing team will also be using the dock to store the vessels. Unfortunately, the new floating classroom will not join its counterpart until later this semester. Now it's time for your sports updates. Let's check in with Adam Jordan to find out about your JU athletics.
Dolphins volleyball continued their impressive win streak as they went 3-0 at the FIU Invitational, beating tournament host FIU, South Dakota State, and Tennessee Chattanooga. Tournament standouts for the Dolphins were sophomore Gabriella Roman and Sammy Strasbaugh, both making the all-tournament team, with Strasbaugh being named the tournament MVP. The ladies are now 9-0 on the season, and they next travel to Orlando to face Central Florida on the 18th at 7 p.m. In JU soccer, the men traveled to South Carolina to play Woolford. The Dolphins were outshot in the game 18-9 and outscored by a count of 3-1. Freshman Jack Burns scored his first career goal in the 88th minute to avoid the shutout. The men are 1-2-1 overall and will play Florida Atlantic on the 20th in Boca Raton. For the women, the last game of 3 on the road ended in a 2-1 victory over Georgia Southern, but the return home proved less successful. The Lady Dolphins squared off against Minnesota at Southern Oak Stadium on Sunday in a 3-0 shutout, taking them to 5-3 on the season. They currently stand as the only team in the ASUN Conference with at least 4 wins. Next up is Florida International at home on the 20th at 7 p.m. As for the start of the home football games, the Dolphins bring a significant win. The home opener was a success as JU bested Morehead State by a score of 69-19. Those 69 points are a school record. The offense managed 719 total yards with 176 yards of rushing from sophomore running back Orlando Thomas, including an 84-yard touchdown run. Sophomore receiver DeAndre Randall led the team in receiving with 134 yards rushing and a touchdown. Next up for the Dolphins, another home game against Warner University this Saturday. The Jaguars went on the road for the first time in the 2013 campaign, and the results were not much better than the week prior. Backup QB Chad Henne got the start as Blaine Gabbert sat with an injured hand. The stat sheet showed a 241-yard outing for Henne in a 25-for-38 performance, but much of that production came late as the Raiders went into a prevent defense. Jags fall in this one 9-19. The Jags will remain on the West Coast and face the Seahawks on the 22nd with a 4:25 kickoff. I'm Adam Jordan. That's your local sports update.
A new face is one thing JU has grown accustomed to in the past few months. Residential Life has hired new senior staff members. There are many reasons staff members chose to become a part of the JU community. New Associate Director of Residential Life, David Stout, believes the future for campus living is going to become better for all students. Another new face for Res Life is Melanie Marshall, the Assistant Director of Residential Life and Education. Residential Life maintains an open-door policy for students to speak about their living situations. From student living to student activities, JU students joined a campus organization to promote awareness for suicidal prevention. Around campus, multiple events were held to raise an understanding for Suicide Prevention Week. The week was not only a time to be aware, but also a time for remembrance. Students gathered in the Kenney Center on 9/11 to write letters to the soldiers.
With the letters to the soldiers, because last year more soldiers died from suicide than from actual combat, we kind of just wanted to, also since it was the anniversary of 9/11, we kind of wanted to reach out to them and kind of thank them for what they do.
Suicides claim the lives of over 900 veterans each month. An average of 18 veterans commit suicide each day. Active Minds put this week together as a time for students to remember what happened on 9/11 and remind them about the sacrifices of the lives lost for our country. Moving toward JU's art scene, the development of smartphones has made it easier to take and edit pictures. A unique exhibit is now on display on the Alexander Brest Museum. Every artistic piece was taken and edited by a cell phone. Artists from all over the world showcase their work in the gallery. The gallery is open to the public during normal business hours. From pictures to musical talents, the Fine Arts Department of JU continued to bring their melodies. Last week, faculty members came together to perform various styles of music in the Terry Concert Hall. The sounds of music came from an assortment of instruments like the drums, a violin, a grand piano, and an electric keyboard. Accompanying the instrumental music were the voices of a quartet showcasing the talents of the JU staff. The next recital the music department will perform is the marimba. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Dolphin Channel News. I'm Adriana Rodriguez. You can find more of our award-winning work by subscribing to our YouTube page. You can also friend us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the Dolphin Channel.